Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hare
Make a really quick announcement.
Okay.
And just to welcome everybody on behalf of our temple president, Her Grace Hemangi Mataji. She sent a message. She's not feeling well. Her health somehow is not good today. So unfortunately, he won't be meeting with us this morning. So she sent a message also to Devaki Mataji to
But she's watching online.
Yes, she's watching online. Hare Krishna, everybody can say to Hemangi. So, but thank you for being here. So we start today this most wonderful seminar, and we're looking forward for the full day today. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Akyantimandasya Gyananjalashalakaya Chakshunmilitam Dina Tasmai Shri Guve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupastam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakaramayam Nanati Svabadantikam Namam Vishnupada Krishna Vista Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Govani Pachaine Nivishesha Shunyavari Pasatari Satarine Vanchakapa Chuvasa Kipa Sinuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pavanityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srivasadi Go Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Ah, okay. Thank you so much. Very kind of you. So, welcome everybody to the continuation of lesson number 1. Who was not here yesterday and needs the materials? Do we still have some printed materials?
I can have some printed in 5 minutes.
Hang on, let me see. Did we hand them out all yesterday? Yeah, looks that way. Okay, so you will get them very soon, just now coming. So yesterday, just to briefly repeat and summarize for those who have not been here yesterday and for those who have been here, just to refresh our memory. So we were basically introducing the whole topic of giving and accepting shelter being the foundation to devotee care. We were establishing that in materialistic culture we relate very, very differently to people than in spiritual culture. And materialistic culture, a culture where sense gratification is the all in all, we ignore others, we push each other out of the way, we step on each other's heads to get up there. There's always, whenever there's sense gratification involved, then there is competition, there's envy. Relationships are rather shallow, simply based on sense gratification. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. And there's no mood of respect and humility and service towards each other. That's all not there. And people are rather selfish, just going on their own, following their own agendas and goals, and have no time for anybody else. And so that's basically the essence. But in spiritual culture, people relate very differently to each other. We were introducing the topic with Jiva Goswami's quote already 500 years ago. He made that observation. And in spiritual culture, people like to accept dependence on others with similar goals and tastes, and they cooperate with each other. And there is the mood of respect, humility, service, never mind from which position, higher, equal, lower, we are always serving, and therefore very, very natural that the seniors affectionately reach out to the juniors and uplift them and guide them, and the juniors very eagerly show respect, they offer service, they inquire. So that's the loving exchange. And we were saying, unless we replace in our relationships as devotees, unless we replace the foundation of sense gratification with giving and accepting shelter, then our relationships are hollow, empty, they don't have a foundation. And I called them Haribol relationships. Right? Everybody understands what that means, Haribol relationships? Yes? Yes, where we just, oh, Haribol, nice to see you. Yeah, I'm really busy. Haribol, see you later. You know, and Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. Yes, and then we also read a few powerful quotes. You know, that Bhaktisiddhanta says it requires 200 gallons of blood to nourish each and every individual devotee, and so that they become pure devotees. 200 gallons. So it shows it requires a big sacrifice, and very natural that those who are a little more mature, they help shedding a few drops of blood, and because Dikshuku can't shed all by himself all that blood. And we were also saying we can save ourselves so many miseries in life if we would just take guidance of those who are already more experienced, facing the same challenge which we might be facing. It's actually common sense. But this is unfortunately what is lacking the most, the common sense. Yeah, so, you know, I observe this all the time, that people just repeat the same mistakes that others have made already 1,000 times, you know, but just because we don't want to take guidance, here we go, we have to go through the school of hard knocks and go through it all ourselves until we realize, okay, better not to do like this. And then we are in the same situation. We might be trying to tell our children, you know, or younger devotees, but no, they don't want to hear. They think they can work it all out themselves. And then again, like that, you know, so everybody has to go through the same mistakes, you know, and you wonder, why don't we just take guidance of the seniors? And very powerful, one of my favorite quotes, where Bhaktisiddhanta says in this book Amritavani, he says that actually a person's defects are better rectified in a private tutorial class or private coaching. And he uses this word coaching, which I find completely revolutionary, that Bhaktisiddhanta was talking about this, you know. And he said, actually what a person says in lectures cannot address each and everyone's defects, but the private one-to-one is so much more powerful. And actually a person who gives that awards others something more permanent. And I really feel we are lacking in this understanding, you know, how important this one-to-one coaching is. And interestingly, one devotee who took the course, a professional, I'm not so connected with the professional world, you know, it's 35 years ago that I was out there doing anything. So, but he was making that comment, and he said, actually, in any kind of professional line, it is understood that if you want to be successful, you need a coach. Yes. I didn't even realize that. I thought it's amongst the sports people, they have sports coaches, but I didn't realize that even, you know, businessmen or managers or whatever it may be, they all accept a coach. So, I mean, my God, you know, when I heard that, I thought, my God, looks like all these people out there, that they got it all down, but we haven't gotten it down. We still didn't get it, you know. Yes, and it's often like that, because people out there in the material world, they're profit-orientated, and they know how to inspire people to give their heart and soul. Yes, they know. They know all the tricks of encouraging management and leadership, you know, that people really, they give their heart to the company. But because we are not profit-orientated, we are often really hanging behind immensely I once was saying this in a meeting of the strategic planning, the GBC meetings, you know, they asked me to share some realizations. And I said, I think we are retarded. You know, we are retarded in our style of management and leadership. And everybody was smiling away there. They all liked it. Yeah, well, that's really what it comes down to, like some retarded person, you know, who is really behind its development. That's what I sometimes feel things are like in ISKCON, you know. Hopefully nobody will mind me saying this. The GBCs didn't mind. They could relate to it. So everybody out there understands, if you want to be successful, you need a coach who coaches us, you know, and shares all the secrets of success, because he knows them, he got there, and rather than we all going through the school of hard knocks, you know, why not accepting somebody's guidance how to get there? Yes. So maybe I will just add a couple more little points to this session, and then we see if there's any questions before we start with lesson 2, right? Because there's a couple points which we didn't have any time for yesterday. And this is the point, you have it on your sheet on the second page in the middle, that actually it's a basic principle of Brahminical culture to have an aloof Brahminical advisor. This is actually the contribution the Brahmanas are making. We were briefly hinting at it yesterday, that a Brahmana has no interest in power, position, title, control. He likes to be aloof with no position, and he simply looks, you know, what needs to be adjusted so that everything goes on for everybody's ultimate welfare, meaning going back home, back to Godhead. And there is a nice, I took one sentence out of a purport of Srila Prabhupada from Canto 2, verse 7, chapter 7, verse 9. Prabhupada says, the Brahmanas, by their learned labor of love, would instruct the administrator kings how to rule the country in complete righteousness. And thus, the process would go on as a perfect welfare state. So, and of course here, perfect welfare state, not meaning, the government pays everything and gives all the social benefits or something. No, not that kind of welfare state. We mean, you know, like Prithu Maharaj, Yudhishthira Maharaj, they organized everything like a perfect welfare state for everybody's upliftment and ultimate welfare to go back home, back to Godhead. Right? So that's what the Brahmanas were doing. And actually, not only the Kshatriyas and the administrator kings and the managers need such an aloof Brahminical advisor, but actually each and every one of us, actually. Because the principle is that as long as we have material desires and attachments, we cannot objectively assess ourselves. Our vision of ourselves is clouded. It is foggy. Right? Makes sense? Yes. Because we're attached, you know? And then it's only human nature that we just dismiss a few points there in the process of Krishna consciousness because they infringe on our sense gratification and they feel a little uncomfortable to us. So we just, you know, sweep them under the carpet. But the process of Krishna consciousness is so scientific that if we cut some corners, the result will be different. And sometimes we cut corners and it starts, you know, hardly even perceivable, but then over time, whoops, we end up somewhere completely different. We go off the track, how we'd call it. These things happen. Yes. And then if we don't have anybody on our side who taps us on our shoulder and says, hey, I think you have to make a few little adjustments here, then we happily go off the track and we don't even realize and we fall off the cliff there. Yes. Yes. So that's why we can't really see objectively where we are standing, where we are at. And we need somebody to help us assess ourselves. Yes. And also yesterday, I didn't mention that, we did define what it means to have a sheltering relationship. And yes, he is a confidential, trusting, senior, well-wisher and friend who gives guidance, inspiration, but who also corrects us where we want to be corrected. Only then it is actually a sheltering relationship. If we avoid that correction, it is not a sheltering relationship. We are not there yet in truly taking shelter. Yes, so, yes, we do need a coach, a mentor, who can actually see, are we practicing in a balanced way? And as we mentioned already yesterday, our Diksha Guru is not enough. He's, as a rule, pretty far away. He doesn't see, on a day-to-day basis, how we are cooperating, how we are serving, how is our sadhana. He doesn't see. And then when he comes, oh, ki joy, everything is going really great, And I mean, some devotees only come out of their corners when their guru comes. They don't come the whole year. Right? You have people like that? I'm sure you do. And only when their guru comes. Not when any guru comes, but only when their guru comes. And then of course guru thinks, oh, well, they're really fired up. So, so guru, not enough. And as we were mentioning yesterday, our Diksha Gurus often have thousands of disciples, thousands. So how can they know each and every person's individual situation in life there? Not possible. Yeah, so this is another very important point, why we do need such an aloof brahminical advisor, a mentor, a coach, who helps us to assess ourselves and who's got this trusting relationship, that he can address issues which other people cannot so easily address, but from this person we will be happy to accept. Yes. Yes, really, other people see us very differently than we see ourselves. Yes. Yes, we might be thinking we're doing fine, and other people see so many things. And as I mentioned yesterday, Naranja Swami was sharing this with me, that this is one of the main challenges of the Diksha Guru, that he actually cannot address, and tell his disciple what he would love to tell him, because he knows he's not even willing to accept. So, meaning we are not really taking shelter even of the Diksha Guru, what to speak of, others around us, Yes. Yeah, so that's one very important reason why we do need such a person. And another thing, let us quickly remember some example from the Shastra. My favorite example is Raghunath Das Goswami. When he was joining Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, then he put him under the care of Swarup Damodar. He said to him, so you serve under him. Right? So, but Raghunath Das Goswami, who is he? He's an eternal associate of the Lord. He's Ragamanjari in Krishna Leela. So our mundane mind might be thinking, why does he have to serve under somebody? Right? But no, this is the sign of a pure devotee, that he wants to serve under somebody. That's what Jiva Goswami says. Right? Those who are striving for prema, they accept dependence. They want to do this. But for our mundane ears, when we hear that somebody serves under somebody, then we immediately think he is incompetent. Right? We think, why does he have to serve under somebody? Can't he work it out all by himself? You know? But no, that's the mood in the spiritual world. There is actually, even in the spiritual world, there is hierarchy there. There's very strict organization there. We are all assisting somebody. We are assisting the assistant of the assistant of the assistant. And only then we can make the most pleasing offering to the Lord. So there is no chaos and individualism and separatism and I'll do it like this or something. No, no, no. So if we want to ever go there, we have to, you know, take up the mood and the spirit. Yes. And when I was in this devotee care committee, I was in charge of the subcommittee for care for leaders. And I had this task of compiling a manual. And I was very strongly insisting that this should be in the manual, that even the leaders, no matter whether they are GBCs, GUIs, sannyasis, they should have a coach. And this was not so easy for people to accept in the committee, you know, because again, the mundane mind thinks, how can you say that? How gurus have to have a coach? You know, sounds like they're not competent or something. But no, he should want to have a coach. And if he doesn't want to, well, then he has to. Yes, yes. Yeah, but it created quite a bit of stir, because to our mundane ears, it sounds the person has some shortcomings and incapacities. But this is only our mundane ears. You know, the spiritual ears hear things differently. And just as a little example, I want to share, maybe some of you have heard about this amazing festival in Ukraine, the Bhakti Sangam festival. I think did I mention it yesterday? Yes, I did. 8,000 devotees are coming there. So, and Narendra Swami is like the host there. He started this 20 years ago. Then it was only 300 people attending. Now it's 8,000. And usually he invites different god brothers, god sisters to attend and give seminars, and he puts them up on the stage and introduces them with very affectionate words and glorifies them and. So then some years ago, Radhana Swami came, after a long time of not coming, he came. So Narendra Swami, greeted Maharaj with very welcoming, affectionate, glorifying words. And then at the end, in all humility and in a very sweet way, he added, and he is also my Lord and Master. He is my Lord and Master. And I was really impressed, that he says this in front of 8,000 devotees, many of them even being his own disciples. And he introduces Radhana Swami as, he is my Lord and Master. And I was really thinking, wow, he's really practicing what he preaches, because his motto is, and we will come back to this later, we can only give shelter to others if we are sheltered ourselves. And just to say, I take shelter in Prabhupada, well, it's all very nice, but it's not enough. Prabhupada is not going to come and tap us on the shoulder here, you know. Yes, not enough. We've seen so many direct Prabhupada disciples going off the track who thought they were all sheltered in Prabhupada. No, not enough. Yes. Yeah, so it left really deep impressions on me, so much so that I still remember it 10 or 12 years ago. Yeah, so no matter who we are, you know, we have to be sheltered. And yeah, in the Shastra, there's probably so many more examples. And also, I once heard one powerful statement in Mayapur in a Bhagavatam class, where one devotee was saying, and yesterday you heard in the introduction about me that I'm meanwhile with the third Diksha Guru. So once I heard in Mayapur that all those personalities who could not maintain their position as sannyasi or guru had one thing in common. They did not have sheltering relationships with their equals and those who were a little more strong. They did not have sheltering relationships. See? So that's what can happen. And again, from the Shastra, powerful example is Bharat Maharaj. Right? It's a typical devotee care story. He wanted to give shelter to the deer, and his problem was he was not sheltered himself. He did not have anybody there tapping on the shoulder, telling him, hey, just leave the deer alone, it's enough now. You know, maybe better turn towards your spiritual practice here. Because Bharat Maharaj, he got carried away. My God, when you read it in the Bhagavatam, you know, how he was so fondling the deer and being completely, you know, carried away, having it on his chest at night, and my God, you know, you think. And he was on the level of Baba, very advanced level. But nevertheless, you know, even on that level, the transcendental emotions can turn back into material emotions and attachments with a deer. What to speak of a person, maybe with the other gender. Woohoo! We will get to that later. Yes, all right, deers are very charming animals, but nevertheless he really got carried away because he was not sheltered. He didn't have a coach, a mentor. And that's why he had to do one more round in the body of a deer, you know. So just see what can happen. Okay, and a couple of last points on the bottom of your handouts. The prize for shelter and care is always to give up one's own independence. That's there on all levels, in regards to Krishna as well as his devotees. And Krishna says, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. You know? So even towards Krishna it's like that. Krishna feels captured by our surrender, and therefore he protects. He reciprocates proportionally. Same on the level of a community. If we are there, you know, eager to serve, giving up our independence, then naturally the senior devotees will feel obliged to protect us and care for us. But if we are aloof and we do our own thing, and every now and again when we want, when we come and do something, oh, well, then the devotees don't really feel so, you know, indebted to us that they give care and protection, right? So this is important to understand, and this is, I guess, the modern trends these days, that we don't want to pay that price of giving up our independence. We want to be independent. That's even one main reason why often young fellows or young ladies don't want to get married, because they want to be independent. They want to do whatever they want to do. And everybody knows once you have family, you can't just do what you want to do. You know, there's other personalities there whose desires and needs you have to consider and adjust to, and. Yeah, and I mean, that's the reason why we are in the material world, because we want to be independent, ultimately from Krishna. So, you know, actually each ashram teaches us to give up our independence. Yeah, so, and without paying that price, we can't expect to have some care and shelter. And then also in Nectar of Instruction, 4th verse, which is about the 6 loving exchanges, Guyam Akhyati Prichyati is the one of confidentially revealing one's mind and speaking confidentially. And Prabhupada in the comments says, a more experienced devotee explains and a less experienced devotee learns from him. That's the loving exchange, which is nothing else but giving and accepting shelter, actually. More experienced devotee explains, less experienced devotee learns from him. So this confidential relating to each other, very often we understand this in a very shallow way. We think the confidentiality is centered around me and my private life, what my husband, my wife did and said, and don't tell anybody else. It's really confidential. But that's not what Rupa Goswami is talking about, definitely not. The confidentiality is centered around Krishna and how we get pure bhakti for Krishna. That's the confidential, talk that Rupa Goswami talks about. That's a whole different matter, So, and that is giving and accepting shelter, one-to-one. And another interesting thing is that actually all the Shastras, they come about through this process of one-to-one coaching session. Arjuna is confused. Krishna is telling him what to do. Krishna is acting as his coach, his mentor. And that's how Bhagavad Gita comes about, or Bhagavatam, Prakrit Maharaj, Sukadev Goswami. It's a one-to-one coaching session. That's how all the Shastra comes about. It's not just, giving a lecture there or something, even though, of course, it was repeated later, to the sages of Naimisharanya and all that. But the actual origin is the one-to-one coaching session. Just there. Yes. Okay, so let us see if we have any questions. And please, I mentioned already yesterday, the questions should be just about what we discussed, nothing else, because there's so many more things coming. Just what we talked about. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for this revolutionary class. So yesterday you said we are product of our surroundings, and you also said we have to change our pattern of this behavior if we need to take shelter. So my question is, most of the people come to temple because they are distressed. And when they change their social circle, to a devotional circle, distress gonna come through devotees only, most of the time. Okay, let's take the example of Prithu Maharaj, you just mentioned. So I'm in between when Prithu Maharaj picked up the bow, chasing Indra, Lord Brahma came, and he chose to instruct Prithu Maharaj. So sometime you let go. That's the principle. So my question is, how a person like us, like, when we are, getting some distress, can we avoid or minimize?
How, hang on, what was it? How can we?
Can we avoid this distress coming from devotee? Because this is a primary roadblock in taking shelter.
It's a primary
roadblock for, new people in taking shelter. Like Himangi Mataji yesterday commented, like a devotee can be, who looks like devotee can be manipulative. So how, and ultimately it will result in a distress.
Hang on, now you're really mixing different topics here. And I also have to say, there might be good questions, but it's not really, we are pressed for time.
Okay.
I cannot really afford to get into discussions which are not directly related to the topic. And so I was saying to Himangi Mataji's question yesterday that there is checks and balances, and we will get to that later. And all right, distress is one reason to take shelter, but it's not the only reason. And also, devotee attitude towards distress is very different than kami attitude. A non-devotee always points the finger at everybody else, it's all their fault. But a devotee says, oh, actually I'm deserving so much more than this, but Krishna gives me only one drop of what I really deserve. So a devotee deals with distress in a very different way, and the devotee uses it as an opportunity to take shelter and to understand. So obviously there's Krishna trying to tell me something. So we're not trying to be free from distress. Actually, Queen Kunti is praying for distress. She's saying, may these calamities come again and again. So we're not trying to be free from distress. This is a material world, there will always be some distress. It's the hospital. So, a hospital, you will find diseased people. So there's always some disturbance. Somebody's vomiting, somebody's passing stool, blood, urine. So there will always be something. But I don't really want to get much more into this because it's not really directly connected with what we are discussing. Yes, we'll continue here.
Devaki Mataji, it is very simple to establish the relationships of taking shelter when you look up to someone who is superior. And it's also simple to give shelter when you're looking someone who is inferior. But then we're talking about the peers, which is mostly, the regular, community that we have. It's a community of peers. And you mentioned examples, His Holiness Niranjana Maharaj, as an example of someone who is actually following what he preaches. Because it seems that the taking shelter that is afforded to us on a day-to-day basis is among peers. Now,
we'll get to that later, if I may interrupt you. We're not there yet.
Okay. But it seems that that's the answer is there among peers, right?
We'll get to it.
Okay.
We are only just... Now we are still at the stage where I'm trying to convince you all of the importance of giving and accepting shelter. That's where we're at. So everything else will come first. We have to be convinced. Right?
I wait.
And we are not finished yet. There's something else coming, just to try and one more time to convince you from a different angle. So does anybody have a question about really where we are at? Yes?
Well, I just wanted to comment very appreciatively on your statement about talking one-to-one. I don't know if it's Kali Yuga, or basically the Western world, where people generally talk to the crowd. And I'm formerly married, And I appreciated my marriage because at the end of the day I could come home and just have to deal with one person. And that's a mundane example, but nevertheless, I just wanted to comment on how we sort of rather deal with one another superficially throughout the day.
Yes. Yeah, well, we already kind of discovered that yesterday by looking how the relationships are characterized in material life and its culture. It's all pretty superficial, and because it's based on sense gratification. So you're simply confirming that.
Yes, and
okay.
My family is from Germany, and I thought the Germans were a little better at that.
Everywhere the same thing. Wherever sense gratification is the all in all, it doesn't matter, what nationality or something. As soon as sense gratification is the all in all, that's what happens. Yeah. There was another question there.
Mataji, I heard taking shelter means let going one's independence.
That's the price to pay.
Price.
To receive shelter, yes.
It seems very big topic in it.
Huh?
It seems very long journey to let it go. It may not happen right away.
Well, step number one is always hearing about it. That's the step number one, hearing about it, becoming conscious of all these subtle things, how it is all connected, and then desiring to get there. It's only a question of desire. So if we desire, Prabhupada says in one purport, if we desire, we can surrender immediately. Right now. It's just a question of desire.
Surrendering a natural tendency is also required?
Huh?
One's own nature.
What?
One's own nature.
One's own nature. See, what you might think is your own nature is not your nature as spirit soul. It's your conditioning, your luggage you're carrying. Our true nature as spirit soul is something completely different. That's being in this spiritual world, serving in an unlimited, large community with innumerable living entities, all assisting each other, serving to make the most pleasing arrangement for the Lord. No independence. That's actually our true nature as spirit soul. But what we think is our nature is just our luggage, which we have accumulated over many, many lifetimes. We are carrying it with us. And if we want to go back home, back to Godhead, luggage allowance is 0. Not 20 kilos check-in and 10 kilos hand luggage or something. No, it's 0. We have to leave it all behind. We have to dissolve it all. And that's what it means to dissolve the subtle body of mind, intelligence, thoughts, ego. If that's not dissolved, then the subtle body will take us to the next gross body, guaranteed. But we don't have time to talk about that longer. I think we'll continue with lesson number 2. So we have the materials here. Let us see if we have enough. Okay, I think this will be enough actually, because some people are not here today who were here yesterday. Actually, while we are distributing the materials, I want to mention one more little detail. For community development, there's 2 keys which help immensely to develop a wonderful, vibrant, dynamic community. Can you just listen and not get distracted? Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Haribol. So, just to hand out the materials doesn't have to be a whole talking thing. So let's just concentrate and use the time to make one little more comment. So there's 2 keys for community development. Key number 1 is the deities have to be the center of the community. That's what it's like in the spiritual world. Everybody is centered around the pleasure of the deities and serving them, being somehow connected with them. So that's one key, but that's only one. There is another key. And the second key is exactly this topic. Sheltering relationships, care for devotees. Yes. Because if that's not there, then, the Lord says, oh, well, yeah, you're serving very nicely me, but what about my devotees? Who is taking care of them? Who is nourishing them? Who is guiding them? And I mean, the devotees are so dear to Krishna. Nobody or nothing is more dear to Krishna than his devotees. That's why Isaiah is not, he's my devotee who claims to be my devotee, but he who is the devotee of my devotee, he is my real devotee. And there's also another verse where it says that Krishna is more pleased to see his devotees, and especially the brahmanas, sumptuously fed by prasadam, than having it all offered to him. He's more pleased when his devotees are satisfied with prasadam. So that's the point. These 2 keys, they have to be there, both together, parallel. And if we apply both of them, then our community will flourish like anything. Deities have to be the center, devotees have to be guided and nourished. Yes. Okay, so lesson number 2. We will make a little 10-minute break in between, just so we can stretch our arms and legs and chant our Gayatri, air our brain a little bit and go to the bathroom or whatever. But I want to establish one more point before we do this. So as I mentioned, now I want to take one different angle and try to convince you all one more time of this point that without giving and accepting shelter, we can actually not really progress. Just in case you're not quite convinced yet. There is still one really good point. So, and before we get to this good point, we have to make some little philosophical excursion, but I will keep it very brief and basic. Let us understand the importance of service attitude. Actually, to develop a genuine selfless service attitude, together with chanting the holy name, these are like the 2 tracks on which the Goloka Express goes back home, back to Goloka Vrindavan. Service attitude and chanting. If we just concentrate on those 2 things, we will very nicely advance. Let us understand that actually Krishna cannot be understood by our material senses, by our material intelligence, by our material mind. No. He can only be understood through our mood of service. And proportionally to how we serve, Krishna reciprocates, Krishna reveals himself. He shows himself to his devotees according to how much we are serving. right? And Krishna explains this in different verses. Bhakti mama vijanati, you know, one can only understand me through devotional service, or tesham satata yuktanam, to those who are constantly devoted in serving me, to them I will give them, you know, the understanding how to come to me, right? Or Brahma Samhita, those whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of love, they can actually see and understand me. You know, there's so many examples like that where Krishna is saying that. So now one thing is, in the Garuda Purana, you've got it on your sheet a little bit down that first page, it says there, the word bhakti is derived from the root verb form bhaj. And the verbal root bhaj means to render service. By the way, this is why Prabhupada translated bhakti as devotional service, not as divine love or something, but very down to earth, service, because to love means actually to serve selflessly. Right? So, and then it continues, therefore, thoughtful sadhakas should engage in the service to Sri Krishna with great endeavor, for it is only by such service that bhakti is born. So now this is a really important thing to deeply understand, that only when we serve with great endeavor, then actually that kind of service mood cultivates bhakti in the heart. If we serve with minimal endeavor, we can serve like that for many, many lifetimes and nothing will happen in our heart. Because bhakti is all about the heart. And in order for our service to transform the heart has to be involved. And the heart is not involved if we have this mood of indifference in the heart. If we are indifferent, you know, if we serve with indifference, then, well, we will just do the minimum, the bare minimum, just so we don't get kicked out of the temple, and we still get our lunch today, and you know, so, and just, well, just something, so, you know, that's serving with indifference. But with great endeavor is something completely different. There we give our heart and soul in service. We serve to our utmost capacity. We want it to be pleasing to the devotees, to Guru, to Krishna, to Prabhupada. Right? And then the heart is involved. It doesn't even matter what service we do. See, this is why for Krishna it doesn't matter what service we do, because it's all a matter of whether or not the heart is involved. That's what Krishna is interested in. So it doesn't matter whether we clean the floor, dress the deities, or cook the lunch. It has to be done with great endeavor. And only such kind of service attitude brings about bhakti. We better clearly understand this. Otherwise we might be wasting our time here, you know? And we think we are progressing here, but if we don't have the right service mood, we will just tread on the spot. You know, like, you know this little pet, the hamster, right? Hamster, you get in the pet shop, right? You know? No? Yes, little hamster. Yes, small white mouse is a hamster. And they are very active at night. So people buy this hamster wheel and put it in the cage, and he runs all night, but he's not going anywhere, you know. So this might be happening to us if we don't know these deeper secrets of developing bhakti. That we might be, going through the motions here externally, and we're wondering why is nothing happening there in our hearts, and why are we maintaining the same material attachments even after 30 years of so-called devotional service. Yes. So we don't want to, be like the hamster in the hamster wheel here, running and not going anywhere. And I remember once Radhanath Swami was speaking on this point about service attitude, and he was giving a nice example, and being a trained physiotherapist, I can really relate to this. He was saying, the heart is like a muscle. So if you want to train a muscle, if you lift something which is really easy to lift, you can do this all day and all night, and there will nothing much be happening in your muscle. Right? But if you lift something, which you can barely lift, where you really go to the very limits of your capacity, and you really train with great endeavor, then, well, something will be happening in your muscle, right? So he was saying bhakti is exactly like that. If we, endeavor with great determination, that's what Krishna says, Satatam kirtiyantuman yatantas shadrita vrata, always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination. See, there you even got the two, always chanting my glories, chanting the holy name, chanting Krishna's glories, and endeavoring with great determination. These two things, chanting and service attitude, they are the keys to success. Yes. So if we endeavor with great determination, then bhakti will actually very quickly develop. If it is together with chanting the holy name. Has to be both. Only chanting without service attitude will not bring the desired success. And only serving and running around like mad without chanting will not bring the desired success. Then our service is not connected to the transcendental platform. And it's just a mode of passion. So both has to be there. So now, that was just the introduction. So now, in order to be able to serve with great endeavor, we have to be sheltered. If we are not sheltered and protected, if we don't have sheltering relationships, we will not be able to serve with heart and soul. No, we will not. We will be holding back. We will be thinking, okay, where am I here in this game? Who will take care of me? And we will serve 5%, 10% endeavor, but not 95%. We will be holding back. Very clear. Because if we invest our heart, we always put ourselves in a vulnerable position. Somebody can take advantage of us. Somehow we can be disappointed. We can be hurt. As soon as the heart is involved, there's a danger to be hurt, right? So that's a really important thing to understand. Unless we have sheltering relationships, we will not be able to serve with heart and soul. We will not. And because we are not serving with heart and soul, Krishna will not reveal himself, because he's only doing that when we serve with heart and soul. Right? So if we serve with 5 or 10% endeavor, Krishna is not going to be drawn to that. He's not going to be impressed. So, and in this way, we are hovering on some lower level of devotional life there. Because we are not sheltered, we can't dive in and serve with heart and soul. Therefore, Krishna doesn't reveal himself. Therefore, our faith in Krishna and the process of devotional service is not maturing, right? So, and therefore, we can't serve with heart and soul, so we're going in circles there. And I have the feeling this is going on in many devotees' lives, Then devotional life becomes a little boring, mechanical, monotone, humdrum. Nothing much is happening. We don't really get a taste. We don't feel some deep happiness and satisfaction. Yes, we can't really taste, the nectar of devotional life. And then, then after some time we think, so I tried all this Krishna consciousness and, and there's only, politics happening there at the temple, and I'll better stay clear of this, and maybe I'll have a look what else is happening in life there, we look for something else. Yes. I think this is really going on in many devotees' lives. This is one reason why we are losing a lot of devotees, apart from the fact that people gradually go off track and they don't have a sheltering person there who saves them from jumping off the cliff, and we can't assess ourselves and what we all mentioned, but also because we can't get a higher taste without these sheltering relationships. We can't give our heart and soul. And I have to share privately that for some reason, I've always had such a sheltering relationship from day one when I met the devotees. Also, I was looking for it actually, intuitively. I wanted it, I desired it very strongly. And therefore, for me, it was, very natural actually to whatever I do, to really do to my utmost capacity. I was really diving in. And therefore, very immediately, I experienced so much nectar, and all kinds of opportunities opened up. And my God, my life has really been such an adventure. Yes, never a dull moment, really. But also, the price to pay for that was and has been, really to try and give my very self there in service. Not that I want to glorify myself, but I'm just explaining, and that is because I had that mercy of the sheltering relationships. It's not that, it's my credit or something, but no, by Krishna's mercy, I always had these sheltering relationships in my life. And therefore it was very natural for me, because I knew there is somebody there who I can always turn to, who has no other interest except my spiritual development. So now we're going to come back to this point, which we addressed briefly there yesterday when we defined a sheltering relationship. For many years, I had devotees coming and complaining to me that they feel used or exploited. And I could actually never relate to it. I was always saying, what are you talking about? This is Maya. Krishna is accepting your service. How can you feel used? This is nonsense. But then, not even so long ago, well, it's a few years ago, but not so long ago, I realized what they were talking about, because it's pretty subtle. And I could not understand before because I had these sheltering relationships. That's why I thought, what are they talking about? But this is the crunch. If we feel used, we can't blame the managers. Because as we were saying yesterday, managing is such a tough job. It's so challenging to make ends meet and pay the bills and get all the services covered, And because it is such a tough job, managers easily wear the managerial glasses. They see people in terms of management. You know? And sometimes we hear that when a new devotee comes to a community from another temple coming, Krishna is sending a pujari, just what we needed. You know? There's a fantastic cook walking in the door. Thank you, Krishna, just what we needed. You know, so we see people in terms of management. And it's almost unavoidable unless a manager is extremely Brahminical. Then he will not have the managerial glasses. But usually, Brahminical people don't like to manage. You know, they're rather preachers. So, and it's hard enough to find managers who want to do the job, so what to speak of Brahminical managers. You know, so, and managing is a more Kshatriya, Vaishya type activity. So that's the point, we can't blame the managers. And that's how this feeling of being used comes about, that we feel, everybody's only seeing me in terms of managerial interests. But nobody actually sees me as a struggling sadhaka. And what do I need for my spiritual development? And we all know these examples of daily life in ISKCON. Not wanting to criticize, I'm just making the diagnosis. I'm a therapist, so even as a preacher, I have this mood of therapist. You know, making the diagnosis, and then are we taking the treatments? You know, that's my main interest, not only the diagnosis. But in order to give the treatment, we have to have the diagnosis. So, example, your Sankirtan leader is a brahmachari, and he would really do well with a break, going to Mayapur and study Bhakti Shastri for 3 months. But then the temple manager says, hang on, I'm losing so much money every month. He's my Sankirtan leader. Not only do I lose his collection, but also so many other devotees' collection will go down. Sorry, he can't go. All right? Or our head pujari might be a lady and she wants to marry somebody in another country. And then the temple manager says, oh, sorry, I need my head pujari. Maybe we can find somebody here in our community who she can marry. You know? then she doesn't have to go all the way to Europe or something. You know? Right? So, you know, these are just examples, you know. So that's what happens. But if there is a mentor in the person's life, then the mentor will step in, you know, yes, and will say, hang on, you know, we can't deal with devotees like that, you know, I know this brahmachari needs a break, otherwise we will get the classic burnout, right? I mean, how often do we experience this? Devotees say, oh, I'm fried, I'm burned out, I can't tolerate it anymore. You know, this is a result, you know, of not having sheltering relationships. Then we don't get to the point of burning out. If we are sheltered, and if we are a little humble, you know, and reveal our mind and say, hey, I think this is just too much for me, I can't take this on, then there will be no burnout. I mean, believe it or not, I've been in the fire of devotional life for 33 years. I have never ever experienced a burnout in my life. Never. No, I don't know what it is. You know, no. Even though I was always, you know, trying my best to really throw myself, you know, to my utmost capacity in the fire of devotional life. But I've never been fried and burned out. No. So if we have sheltering relationships, We don't get to that stage. Yes. Good to understand. Huh? Yeah. Because, I mean, that's another reason why we lose so many devotees, this classic burnout, you know, and then people get all put off and they just don't want to come to the temple anymore and all these kind of things, you know. So, again, we can't blame the managers, we can only blame ourselves, that we did not recognize the importance of sheltering relationships. So if we have just one person in our life, even though everybody around us might be wearing the managerial glasses, but if we have one person in our life who has no other interest except my spiritual development, then we feel safe, we feel protected, and we can give ourselves in service. And we know, I can always double check with that person. You know, if I'm overdoing it here, or, you know, if my sadhana is getting neglected, or maybe I need a break and need a trip to India or something, you know. So then we have that person. He is our anchor. And then we feel safe, you know, even though around us everybody wears the managerial glasses, you know. But I mean also, let us be clear in this, that if our managers are a little aware of this, and they do implement some little structure for this care, you know, and mentorship, I mean, this really gives so many long-term benefits. Yes, and of course, a first-class manager, he will always put each and every devotee's individual needs first. He will be people-focused, right? Because he knows, he or she knows, that if people feel cared and nourished and guided, then they will stick with the project. They will not go somewhere else. They will stay and they will serve with heart and soul. Whereas when the first priority is always the needs of the project, you know, then people easily feel like hired hands. And they will hang around for a while, but then they will feel, even though they might not clearly understand with their consciousness and intelligence, but they feel that actually nobody's really interested so much in me as a devotee, only everybody's interested in what I can give and contribute. And sooner or later they will go. And we have this happening in a lot of projects all over the world, doesn't matter where you go. You know, that people come, hang around, move on. People come, hang around, move on. So, and then sometimes, you know, when some person goes, a new person comes. And we think, all right, never mind, that person goes, but Kijai, Krishna's sending the new person there. You know? And then we don't even think more deeply why this is happening. That people leaving, people going somewhere else. Right? So, to be people-focused, devotee-focused, this pays out, you know, yes. And believe it or not, even companies out there in the material world, even they get the point. I once saw on one website where I sometimes check what's happening in the world, I saw a whole article on this. It has a certain name, this kind of management style, but I forgot, of course, I can't remember what it was. But companies realize that if they care for their people in the company, if they offer all kinds of recreational activities and nice meals and this and that, you know, then the company becomes their home. Yes, and they want to give everything, you know. Yeah, they have all kinds of weekend retreats and this and that, you know, and people only go home to sleep, and the company becomes their home, and they give their heart and soul in the company. Even they get the point, you know? Yes, there's a whole new management style. Anybody knows what this is called? No. There's a term for it, some English term, you know, even in German. I saw it on a German website. But wow, I was reading the whole thing, thought, my God, see, this is devotee care, you know, kami care, employee care. Huh? No, that's, they don't know that out there. No, it's a kami thing in kami companies. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, that has a certain term. I can't remember. Huh? People manager. No, it was something more compact. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But anyway, you know, this is my point, that even the kami companies in the secular world, they get the point. You know? That if you actually take care of people, you know, and make them feel really cared and welcomed and you know, then people love it. You know? Yes. And they have all fitness studios and yoga sessions in between work and all this, you know. Yeah, they know, you know. They know all the tricks. Yes. So in any case, yes, let's clearly understand this principle, you know, that actually we can only serve with heart and soul if we are sheltered. And otherwise we hold back and we will not serve with heart and soul, then Krishna will not reveal, and we will not really get anywhere in our devotional life. You know? And if we feel used or exploited or whatever, we can only blame ourselves because we have not developed sheltering relationships. Yes. If we have just one such relationship in our life, we will not feel used and exploited. No, we will feel sheltered. We've got somebody who we can always turn to and double check and so on, you know. Yes. Let me quickly see. Yeah, also let's quickly remind ourselves of that principle that, you know, to get Krishna's mercy, we have to get Guru's mercy, and to get Guru's mercy, we have to get the mercy of the Vaishnavas. This is the chain there, you know, and we can also apply the same principle within regards to shelter and protection, you know, to actually be sheltered and protected by Krishna, we have to take shelter and protection of Guru. And actually, interestingly, to be sheltered and protected by Guru, we actually have to develop these sheltering relationships in our more immediate daily life. And I've seen that also many times, that when a devotee faces some crisis, he or she does not run to Guru and reveal their mind. No, because the ego is too much in the way. Oh, what will he think? And he will not understand anyway. He's simply too remote. You know? So therefore, unless we actually develop these sheltering relationships on our more daily life, in our immediate community, we will not be able to take shelter of Guru. We will not. Yes. And I've even experienced this when devotees have a sheltering relationship which is further away, not immediate. You know, then also, when there is some crisis, then often people are hesitant to write and reveal their mind. Oh, this person, especially when that person is more senior, a preacher or something, then the mind comes, oh, that person, he or she will not understand, and so far away, I haven't heard from that person for a few months, and better not. you know? Yes. So that's why we need sheltering relationships in our community, where then also that person sees, oh, hang on, I haven't seen that person for 10 days. What's happening? You know, ringing, hey, how are you? I haven't seen you for a while. You know, but if the shelter giver lives on the other side of the world, you know, the person will not see. You know? Yes. Yes. So that's why we need these sheltering relationships on a more daily basis, you know. So I hope that I managed to convince you from all different angles of vision that without this giving and accepting shelter, there is no way actually how to more deeply progress. And obviously, because it is not really according to our culture we are surrounded by, you know, we need a little bit of facilitation, we need a little bit of help there. And Prabhupada always gives this nice example of the child learning how to walk. And he says, even though for a human being to walk is the most natural thing on the planet, still there's some time where it has to be facilitated, where you have to help the child to learn how to walk. So in the same way, this giving and accepting shelter is actually the most natural thing, actually, in spiritual culture, anyway. And that's how a human being is meant to live, actually, in spiritual culture. So, but because we are conditioned, it needs to be brought out, it needs to be facilitated. And of course, yeah, there's always the two options, either to have it informally going on, or to give it a bit of structure, you know, and a little bit of support. So really each and every devotee is caught in that network of sheltering relationships. But how to practically do it, we'll leave that for later. Now, one quick interesting thing is that actually this role of mentoring, of giving shelter, this is actually what the Vanapastas are meant to do. This is the main and foremost contribution of the Vanapasta ashram. I've got a whole 15-hour course on this, what the Vanapasta ashram is all about. And I can't help myself thinking that because this giving and accepting shelter is not fully understood and recognized and established, this is also one of the main reasons why the Vanapasta ashram is not established, because that's their main and foremost contribution. So if we can't even value this, you know, then there's no room for the Vanapasta ashram, really, right? And because Vanapasta ashram is not established, that's why we all run with our family issues to our sannyasi diksha gurus. My God, actually they should not be dealing with these things. It's the job of the Vanapastas, of the senior, more mature, experienced householders, not the sannyasi diksha gurus. And I have spoken to gurus, and they have shared with me that 75% of their energy and time goes by with family issues of their disciples. Who to marry, who not to marry, whether to get divorced, what to do with a child, what to do with a naughty teenager, and, you know, oh my God, all the gurus have to deal with these things, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's sad. You're laughing, but it's actually sad, you know. So if we could just get a grip on this and train our devotees, that would relieve our Diksha Gurus from so much burden, that they could actually preach about chanting the holy name and pure devotional service, and it would allow our mature grihastas to come up and actually give guidance, you know, because senior grihastas who have survived, especially if they survive in one marriage, my God, this is almost hard to find these days, you know? in LA when I was there. Yeah, I met a few devotees there who've been married for 40 years. Ooh, that's already, super most glorious. And surely they have so much to share. They have a whole wealth of life experience and wisdom to share. But if there's nobody who's even interested in it, and everybody rather runs to the Diksha Gurus, then what they got to share? They'd simply sit idle. And all that wealth is lost. It's unused. And this is really what's going on. Really. So, and I mean, just for your information, I'm mainly familiar with this whole topic through my involvement in Ukraine. Because there, Narendra Swami has been preaching this devotee care, this mentoring system, for more than 20 years, actually. Yes. And I have witnessed, in Moldova too, by the way, not only Ukraine, and I have personally witnessed how this gives so much stability to each and every devotee, and thus to a whole community. It's really amazing. I mean, Ukraine is probably one of the most far-out communities of ISKCON worldwide, is Ukraine. Yeah. My God, it's a whole thing. They're very systematically developing things. And Narendra Swami got things from Radhanath Swami and Chaupadi. Yes. He, as soon as, I mean, some of you might know that Chaupadi actually started outside of ISKCON in those days when there was all kinds of amazing things going on in New Vrindavan, and some devotees were pulling out of New Vrindavan and were a little separate. So Chaupadi started outside of ISKCON, and Narendra Swami was the one who met Radhanath Swami in the streets of Mumbai in the mid-90s. And they bumped into each other, and they were talking for 48 hours non-stop or something. And Narendra Swami convinced Radhanath Swami to come back to ISKCON. And I distinctly remember I was married at the time, and we had a meeting with Maharaj, with Narendra Swami and Maharpur. He was our GBC there in the former Soviet Union. And Narendra Swami was all excited. Oh, guess what? I met Radhanath Swami in the streets of Mumbai, and we were talking, and he's going to come back to ISKCON. And we just thought, okay, we had never heard of Radhanath Swami. So, okay, we were not as excited as Maharaj was. But from there, I know it firsthand. Yes. So, and at that time already, Narendra Swami, when they bumped into each other in Mumbai, he immediately visited Chaupadi. He wanted to see what's going on there, what's Radhanath Swami doing there. And he immediately, it was an eye-opener for him. He realized, this is what we need. This is what we need. And then he immediately ordered all his TPs and his GBC zone, to watch some old-fashioned video cassettes, former technology, and where Radhanath Swami explains the principle of this mentorship program. And he said, I want each and every temple president to immediately watch with the whole congregation. Instead of Bhagavatam class, they should watch these videos, and I want them to immediately apply the system in their community, immediately. So little did he realize that it would take so long and wouldn't be so easy. So now he's mainly concentrating on Ukraine, and he's just creating a nice model there, So from that I have seen what amazing benefits it gives. I mean, even in regards to arranging marriages, like actually to help devotees arrange a spouse, this requires this trusting relationship. Unless a person acts as your mentor, you will not trust him. Yes. And like in Kiev, which is a big community, I mentioned 800 people come for the normal Sunday program every week. They are so good in arranging marriages. Over the last 8 years or so, they have almost arranged 100 marriages. And they have 0 divorce rate amongst those marriages. There is divorce rate, but this is amongst those couples who find each other, not in those couples where the mentor helps. And I mean, that's already, you know, a pretty remarkable result. And the reason for not having any divorces when the mentor is involved is not that they are so expert to find the perfect match made in heaven or something. No, the reason is because the mentor is an ongoing part. He plays an ongoing role in that relationship. And whenever there is a challenge, you know, immediately it's most natural for the devotees to turn towards their mentor and ask for guidance. And then any challenge can be overcome. And I know this from my own experience. It's not that I'm some full-time matchmaker or something, but sometimes I have made some endeavor to find spouses for devotees, and I only do this for people where I'm serving as some kind of a mentor and have this trusting relationship. And it is very natural. You know, if you put 2 people together, and arranging marriages doesn't mean that anybody forces anybody to get married. You only find and suggest a possible candidate, just to make that clear. But it's very natural if you know, part of putting people together, you have an ongoing interest. How are they going? You know, and those 2 involved, they feel indebted. So as soon as there's a problem, you know, they ask for guidance. It's a very natural thing. So, I mean, these are just some little byproducts, you know, of this mentorship program, how it really helps solidifying communities. And another interesting thing is that this idea actually is not an Indian thing. Because sometimes people say to me, you know, this mentorship thing, this only works in India. But lo and behold, actually Kirtananda started it. And where did he get it from? From some Christian community in America. Yes. He saw how they take care of their community members. And he just took the principles, and then Ranaswami developed it further. So it's not an Indian thing. And also very often people say, this only works when you have the one guru, like in Chaupadi. No, Ukraine has so many gurus, and still it's going on. And I mean, I'm giving guidance to so many devotees of so many gurus. What's that got to do? You know, all the gurus bring everybody to Prabhupada. So it's not a guru thing or something. No, no, no. So, just to take away all the excuses already up front. So let me see, do we have any question before we stop for lunch? Not for lunch, for a break, 10-minute break. Any questions? Just about what we discussed. This ability to serve with heart and soul. Yes.
Hare Krishna. You covered a point that Diksha Guru is not enough, you need to accept the shelter. So,
say it again?
You mentioned that the Diksha Guru is not enough, you need to accept the shelter.
Yes. Yeah.
Are there any guidelines like how to accept shelter for a new devotees? When they come in the congregation, there are a lot of senior devotees, but how do we find that the shelter?
It will all come. You're again a couple of steps ahead of us here. We will discuss this afternoon the qualities we need to have to be keen for shelter. Then tomorrow the qualities we have to have in order to give shelter to others. And then Monday evening we talk about more practical things, how to get it all happening. So you're just gonna have to bear with us and come every time, every day. Then you'll find out. Anything else? Yes, Mataji.
Mataji, we were talking about how if a person, even before they enter the temple, we have these managerial classes, we're looking for pujaris, we're looking for like so many different aspects in how we can have their help in the temple. So you made a point and you said that it's important that they feel sheltered in order to be able to put their heart and soul in devotional service. So I was wondering, do we have to wait for them to establish that relationship even before asking them for service? Because it also seems like it works the other way. Like when somebody is engaged in service, then there is a relationship with the persons they are serving with. Yes. For Krishna. Yes. So if you could just...
I mean, there's no question of waiting until they have shelter. It's been going on for 50 years, you know, without that. So it's not that we're telling now everybody to stop serving until they have a sheltering relationship or something. Yeah. No, of course not. Of course not. Okay. Let everything go on as it goes on, you know, but just... The main point is that we recognize, unless we have sheltering relationships, almost impossible to serve with heart and soul. That's the point we're making. And another thing is often that the managers feel, oh, we need more devotees. But now actually we have so many devotees. The problem is they're not giving their utmost in service. That's the issue. They're not serving 95% energy. You know, they give 5 or 10%. You know? So the solution is not more devotees, but if we shelter them, you know, then they will serve much more. You know? Yes.
Thank you.
So many hands.
You were mentioning about having sheltering relationships in the community we are versus some person far away. In my experience, because life is quite fluid, someone who, let's say, is in the local community has very sheltering relationship, but then they have to move.
Yes.
Okay? When they move to a new place, what is your experience that are you suggesting that they start a new type of sheltering relationship, or because of the strength of a previously existing relationship that they can continue? What's your experience been?
It's also more practical thing which we get to later, but anyway, now you brought it up. I mean, it's very natural that the relationship that is already established, it can go on. As I'm saying, there is room for so many sheltering relationships on different levels, but definitely highly advisable that they develop a sheltering relationship where they are, you know? So both can go on. Yes.
Recently we had Sadhu Sangha in America, and I met a Mataji from Ukraine. She just came to Canada, and she shared her experience that she's very depressed right now in Canada because of how much
I can understand
how much mentoring relationship she had, and she started talking about this mentorship, and I couldn't understand what she's talking about. So now when you mention it, it brings more context to it. And I also heard some Russian devotees saying, my mentor this, my mentor that. It doesn't exist here officially like that in my experience. So I feel you're going to cover more about more structurized mentorship probably, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, yeah, it will all come. I mean, in Ukraine, You know, Naranja Swami makes so much effort for the last 20 years. My God, they have 2 times a year, they have a mentors retreat, where all the mentors from all around Ukraine, they come to Kiev for a long weekend. It's about, 300 people or something. Mentors and assisting mentors. And they have a whole weekend thing of all different tools, how to mentor, and it highlights the whole thing. It's like we have a Sankirtan festival, a book distribution festival. It highlights book distribution. And they do that twice a year about the mentoring. And on one of them, Naranja Swami himself usually is present. And second one, they invite some Chaupadi devotees. There's Sridham Prabhu and Kishori Mataji. Anybody has heard of them, Sridham and Kishori? Yeah, yes. So they travel to so many places and encourage and inspire devotees in this. Yes. And he's been doing this for 20 years, Naranja Swami, really pushing, facilitating. Also, his new aspiring disciples, he always asks them to accept the mentor. And then the mentor reports to Maharaj regularly. Doesn't matter whether the mentor is his disciple or not, doesn't matter. But Maharaj's disciples, he wants reports through the mentors. And I've been to programs in Kiev where Maharaj was sitting for hours and different mentors were introducing new aspiring disciples of him. For hours he was sitting there as if he wouldn't have anything more important to do. So obviously, that he puts so much emphasis on this, he must be understanding that this is super important. And when I was once saying to him that so many gurus spend 75% of their time and energy with family problems, he gave me this big smile and he said, "Not me." Because he's got the mentors who solve these things. He doesn't get involved. Yes. Okay, I kind of feel we should break now. Or you don't want to have a break? No, a little break we want. But do me a favor, not more than 10 minutes. Yeah, because we still got an important topic to discuss before the lunch break. So not more than 10 minutes. Just Gayatri and bathroom, nothing more than that. And if anybody wants a book, I've got a couple more, but one of them I have to keep as the showing sample. So there's 2 more for sale. And if there's not enough, then simply put your name there on the list. And where is the devotee who's in charge of this? No, it was one Prabhu. Where is he? He's not here. So hang on, we need one person in charge of it there. Okay, thank you. Yes, okay. So for people who want to get on the list, you collect $10 up front, okay? And name and phone number. Okay. What Where are you from?
I'm from the Netherlands, actually.
Oh, really? Okay, so you're living here? Okay.
I just wanted to share one experience. Can I turn this on?
Hang on.